Ladies and gentlemen, please give a warm round of applause.
I think that both regulatory and policy, both for the sector and for the airlines and for government, should be about consumers. They're the final users. Airlines work, of course, make profits, enable us to do our journeys, but they work to connect us from point A to B. The regulatory and the safety environment is to ensure that we're all safe in these steel tubes that we go in the sky. And I think that a lot of governments across the globe have been focusing sometimes, including ourselves, on sort of the very strict regulatory requirements that forget to put consumers at the center of it sometimes. And this is something that is becoming more and more, as customers travel more, as customers demand more, I think we will see more of it. But decarbonization never paused. And the answer you're not going to expect is we were not allowed to pause because the sector was very clear what the ambition was. So when I walked into ICAO for the negotiations, I said I was leading the UK and European delegation on climate. We had very, very clear ambition and statement from IATA, from our colleagues, that the primary objective was to achieve net zero by 2050. They were ahead of us. So we find 100+ states inside the Assembly trying to negotiate a target that I think our sectors collectively had told us, get a move on. We have already decided that this is the right thing to do. I've been asked this many times since I arrived here, and when we've been discussing with my colleagues in the Indian government, we found a profound sense of collaborative spirit. So we want to work together. It is not a case of us telling Indian government what we think is best practice. On the contrary, I believe that we have a lot to learn on both sides. And let me sort of say a couple of things here. India is in an amazing space of growth. There is a huge amount of ambition. There is a huge ambition on building new airports, on growth of airlines. And we met a couple when I was here. And I think the Indian aviation sector is growing during a phase of incredible development. We grew back when we had fossil fuels and smaller planes and all of this. The opportunity for growth is new planes, new efficiency, new engines, new opportunities, new digitization. So it's an incredible opportunity, and we in the UK want to learn from that. So that's one area. How do we share our knowledge, expertise? How do we learn from each other as we go through a phase of identifying new fuels, new technologies? The second area is regulatory. How do we manage new regulation? And when you think about regulation, everybody thinks about really grey-suited civil servants thinking really deep about how we can make the life of the operators difficult. But I'll give you a different aspect of regulation, which is how can you focus on a regulatory environment that aspires to a future we don't know the shape of? So when we get together with our colleagues here in India, we talked about new forms of planes, new engines. We talked about drones. We talked about new forms of flying, eVTOLs, taxis, et cetera, and nowhere in the world do we have the manual of how to make our airspace operate in a way that gives access to all of them. But we also don't know anything about the regulatory environment so far. So it is a huge amount of collaboration there. But I think capacity, we always almost think about capacity building as money. And in my mind, we're missing a very big trick if we think that capacity building is just funds. It is sharing of knowledge, sharing of skills, sharing of personnel, regulatory environments, R&D, and all the kind of things that build capacity in a sector and in a nation. Skills is an interesting one. It has not been a secret. I have been very envious of the statistics of, if we talk about skills and, for a minute, gender balance, which is a passion of mine, very, very jealously heard the statistics that the number of female pilots in the aviation sector in India is 14%.
Yes.
We are a little bit behind on that in the UK and I think in other parts of the world. So we have two aspects here. When you talk about skills and talent, we talk about equitable distribution of that talent in our population, but we're also talking about new skills. The new air controllers, we're talking about new engineers, all of those individuals that will have the skills to address the challenges that we face. So there are great opportunities for exchange, there are great opportunities for knowledge, and I think this is something that another point of connection with the Indian government will be significant. I would say two things are clear: priorities and ability to understand what is the ask of the customer and the policymaker, and two, yes, ability to judge that, and whether you call it independence or clarity of how we manage the rules transparently. You may not have independence, but you have really clear, accountable, transparent systems, and therefore you can see where it's coming from. So I can't comment on the structures, but I think it's the outcomes we should be caring about. Ooh, I think I should ask my teams that they're around here. We're taught to do three things pretty much from the way-go in the civil service. One is to be objective. So as you know, we are not, as governments come and go, we stay in place. So we give advice that is objective, is based on economic policies, based on assessment of the pros and the cons, and trying to be transparent about all of that. We are accountable to Parliament, so at any point in time, senior civil servants like myself and others are accountable to Parliament for the actions that we make. And three, we have huge training systems that ensure that people from the day go have training on digital, on diplomacy, on politics, on policy, on economics, so they ensure that they have what they get. Fundamentally, aviation is an international sector. So I don't think that we can solve our problems by staying inside our boundaries. So international coordination and international cooperation is really, really important. I look forward to my working with my Indian colleagues. I met a lot at a senior level. We want to continue working, we're in the dialogue, and we want to solve problems together.
Right.
We found a lot of commonalities. We found a lot of areas of expertise that we can learn from each other. And we have a whole list, I can't reveal right now, of points that we have to go away and get our teams together. To deliver. So I believe that international cooperation is absolutely key for an aviation sector that needs to thrive, needs to grow sustainably, and needs to be safe and secure for the customers.